Morning guys, and welcome back to I Like Watches. Now I'm sure you're well aware the big AliExpress sale is well underway, and I'm sure you're also aware you can buy some pretty incredible watches at incredible prices during the sale. But did you also know you can buy actual proper working Tourbillon watches discounted in the sale? I bought this one around 18 months ago and it is still working. I've been recently sent this one to review for you guys by the Aesop official store. Now, do you know the difference between a Carrousel and a Tourbillon? And do you know whether or not these watches are actually worth buying? If not, stick around because those are the questions I am planning to answer in this video. I'm also going to give you a nice close-up view of the tourbillon movements in these watches. Well, tourbillons or carousels? Stick around because we're going to find out. All right, guys, enjoy the video. So what is a tourbillon or a carousel movement? It's basically a mechanical movement with some extra bits and pieces inside it. Those extra bits allow the escapement and the balance to rotate 360 degrees every 60 seconds. And it was initially invented for the benefit of pocket watches because pocket watches used to hang in one direction 99.9% of the time until, of course, you pick them up to read the time. But basically, gravity used to play havoc on those movements, and to even out the effect of gravity on pocket watches, the tourbillon was invented in 1801, I think it was, and the carousel was subsequently invented around 90 years later in the 1890s. So what is the difference between a tourbillon and a carousel? Well, the truth is not a huge amount. They both do very similar things for the very same reason. They are both designed to rotate a cage which houses the escapement and the balance wheel 360 degrees every 60 seconds to counteract the effect that gravity has on the accuracy of a movement. They just do it in slightly different ways. With a tourbillon watch, you have a single power source which rotates the cage and also allows the escapement to work. But with a carousel watch, you have, well, one barrel which supplies the energy, but you have more cogs and more gearing which supplies essentially a separate energy source to the cage. So you've got the cage being rotated by one set of gears and the escapement being moved by another set of gears. So with a carousel, if you stop the cage from rotating, you will still have a working escapement. But with a tourbillon watch, if you stop the power source to the cage, the whole thing stops working. That is basically the difference. Now the question remains, do we need a tourbillon or carousel element inside the mechanical movements that reside inside our wrist watches? Truth is, probably not, because they were initially designed to improve the accuracy of pocket watches, literally because pocket watches hang in the same position 99.9% of the time, so they were greatly impacted by gravity. And well, our wrists move all over the place and our watches move around with our wrists. So gravity has a much lesser impact on the mechanical movements that sit in our watches on our wrists. But the truth is they look pretty awesome, they're spinny and they're quite mesmeric, and they used to be reserved purely for the luxury Swiss market. But in recent years, they have started to find their way into much more affordable watches, and now you can pick them up at incredible prices from AliExpress. Yeah, the Aesop official store has lots and lots of them, and I've got two of them in front of me now. So yeah, let's head over to the light box and have a good look, shall we? Right, here's the two Aesop tourbillon watches that I currently own. The watch on the left I bought in March 2021. The watch on the right has recently been sent to me by the Aesop official store for free to feature in this video. Now, when I bought the watch on the left in March 2021, I featured it in an unboxing and first impressions video, and there were quite a few comments from people saying it's probably going to break in a matter of hours, days, weeks, months. So because of that, I have been regularly winding up the movement inside this watch. It's never just sat in a watch box. It's been out on my desk or on my shelves behind me, and yeah, despite the noise, these aren't the quietest movements. I have been regularly winding it up, and well, it's been over 18 months, and as you can see, it still works. I'm going to put them on the Timegrapher to see how accurate they are, but they're still working. Well, you'd expect this one to work. It's brand new, wouldn't you? Now, I've had a good close look at the movements inside these watches, and I believe they are tourbillon movements. I'm not seeing the additional elements needed to essentially categorize them as carousel movements. It sort of makes sense because even though tourbillon is perhaps more desirable, it's the more recognized version of the two. It's also, I think, the simplest because you need the additional gearing to make a carousel work, whereas the Tourbillon, I think, just has less gearing and less complexity, even though it is still a fairly complex movement. I think it is going to be fractionally easier and cheaper to make than a carousel, so it does sort of make sense that there are actual tourbillons in here. Now, the reason I have in the past called the watch on the left a carousel is because, well, I've had people tell me it is a carousel, but I think they are mistaking the element on the cage as part of the additional gearing that you would expect to see on the outside of a carousel cage. But yes, if you are seeing something different to me, let me know in the comments section. But as far as I'm concerned, these are tourbillons and not carousels. My apologies for misleading you in the past. Now, I've just got back from putting both of these on the Timegrapher, and I think the results are quite interesting. The watch that I bought 18 months ago actually beats at 28,800 beats per hour. It doesn't hack, and it's a hand wind only movement. This one is fluctuating a little bit in terms of its accuracy, but I'd say it's averaging plus 10 to plus 15 seconds a day on the Timegrapher, which isn't too bad at all. Amplitude and beat error both pretty decent. The watch on the right beats at 21,600 beats per hour. Again, doesn't hack and is hand wind only. On the Timegrapher, this one is also fluctuating a little bit, between -5 and -10 seconds a day. Amplitude is okay, beat error is not fantastic. Now, interestingly, the adjusting elements on the movements are actually on the balance wheels, as you would expect, and they're moving around with essentially the carousel element of the movement. They're also front facing, so if you wanted to adjust the accuracy and the beat error perhaps of these movements, you're going to struggle a little bit because, well, they don't hack, so when you pull the crowns out, the cage continues to rotate, and also you're going to have to take the whole movement out. So yeah, with these watches, I think you're just going to have to stick with what you get. But on the whole, I think the accuracy was okay. Now, I'm not going to give you all the dimensions and specifications in the video, but I will list some in the video description. The diameter of this watch is 42.5 millimeters, and the thickness is 10.8. The new watch, very similar, just under 43 millimeters, and thickness is 12. On the supplied straps, they weigh 84 grams. I suspect this one's a little bit heavier. Yep, 103 grams. And what about the crystals? Let's test them front and back. Sapphire front on this one. What about the case back? Oh, sapphire sandwich. Nice. And the recent one, sapphire on the front. Excellent. Sapphire sandwich again. Oh no, mineral crystal in the back. Shame. No loom on this one, but there is some loom on this one, so let's quickly show you that. And there it is. You do have some loom on the outside of the dial and on the hands, which looks pretty strong, and loom on that star as well. Both of them have come on straps that you're probably going to change, let's be honest. Fairly nice clasps. Certainly on this more recent one has a more interesting clasp, but yes, I suspect if you were to buy either of these, you're probably going to put it on an alternative strap. So with that in mind, I should probably give you the lug width, shouldn't I? 22 millimeters on this one. This one looks bigger. Is it 24 millimeters? It is 24 millimeters. So which out of these two would I prefer to own? I think that's fairly straightforward. The watch on the left looks a little bit more traditional. Yes, the dial is quite sparkly and unusual. But with that tourbillon movement at the bottom of the dial, it is just an unusual looking watch, isn't it? But just the fact that it looks a little bit more traditional in terms of its case shape and its dimensions and just its overall look means that this one, I think, is, well, it is proving to be more desirable because they've sold more of these than anything else. And one downside to this watch is the hands don't sit actually in the center of the dial. They sit slightly above the center of the dial. Yeah, I guess that tourbillon element above the 6 or at the 6 o'clock position is just too big to have the hands in the center of the dial. Whereas on this one, they are sitting centralized. Look. Right, let's take a look at the Aesop official store on AliExpress. We can have a look and see what they're offering, but also I'm going to show you the two watches that I own, but I'm going to show you a third watch as well. The watch that I would probably buy if I was going to buy another one of these Tourbillon watches from the Aesop official store. Now, I've listed them in order of popularity. This is the most popular one with 64 orders. And then we've got this one here, which is actually the one that I would probably buy if I was going to buy another one of these. The third watch, or the second watch that I've got, the third watch that I want to show you is their new release. I suspect that will not be as popular as some of these because although these look quite unusual and unique, they still look quite traditional, don't they? They're actually quite good looking watches. But yeah, we're looking at the most popular ones, and as you scroll down, the designs get a little bit more outlandish, which I guess you are expecting to some degree from a Tourbillon watch. They tend to be, even the really expensive Swiss-made ones, are very ornate in their design, shall we say. Here is the other one that I've got. They've sold 2 of these. So yeah, I'm not surprised that isn't a huge seller. I'm not overly keen on the design. Let me know in the comments section, guys, what you think. Now, let me show you in a little bit more detail the watches that I've got. Prior to the sale, this was actually $303. And I've tried to buy this watch in the sale, and I'm being offered it for $251 US, which is a decent discount from the $303 they were asking for this watch prior to the sale. Now, the second watch is the watch that I would actually buy if I was going to buy another one of these watches, and it would be this one. Lovely sunburst grey dial, sort of simple to some degree, but you've got that tourbillon element at the bottom of the dial. Nice bracelet as well by the looks of it. Again, I haven't handled this watch, so I can't really recommend it, but I think this one looks very, very nice. $280 odd prior to the sale starting. The sale price is $254. Now, I've checked out and I've been offered this watch in the sale for $240. So yeah, $40 discount from the price prior to the sale starting. Right, here's the third watch then. This is the new release. Now, prior to the sale starting, this was consistently $287 US. It's been dropped to $261 US. Now, I've checked out during the sale and I can pick this one up for $247 US. So again, roughly $40 off. So do I think these super affordable Aesop Tourbillon watches are worth considering during the 11th of the 11th sale? Yeah, I think they probably are. On the whole, the specifications are actually pretty good, and they have been reviewed by a number of other watch reviewers on YouTube, and generally they are very well received. And let's not forget, these are proper working, functioning tourbillon movements inside these watches. And yeah, if you go to Switzerland to buy one of these, you're going to pay upwards of $15,000. So yeah, for under $300, I think these do represent fantastic value for money. You've just got to find one that you like, and yeah, if you pick it up, it's definitely going to be a conversation starter. Now, in terms of the reliability, yeah, I've been winding this one up for 18 months, and on the Timegrapher, I think it's still running to an acceptable level. I'll come back in a year or so and maybe produce a similar video, and I'll give you an update on the accuracy and whether or not it's still working. But of course, I value your input, guys, as does everyone else. So yeah, if you're considering buying one of these watches, let me know in the comments section, and maybe you've bought one and you've had a good or a bad experience with it. Again, let me know in the comments section. Right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. As always, a massive thank you from me to you for watching. I do appreciate it. Take care, guys. Look after yourselves. You'll see me again very, very soon.